Welcome to a chapter reading from Irish Elixir by Anaya Science Witch. To provide the context for this chapter, I'd like to refer you to this page 156, where we can see the image of the Ne Jing Tu, the inner weaving, the Daoist metaphysical body that we can use as a tool for practicing the sacred secretion. And as you can see, it has a head, a middle torso and a lower torso, and it is an island facing west that is the hologram of the island of Ireland as the human body. So to make it easier for the inspection, I divided this entire metaphysical body into the microcosmic orbit sections in the upper, middle and lower cauldrons, to find that when this map was compared with the Angus Cowland's map of Ireland, showing all of the megaliths with the constellations, when we overlay that map onto the Ne Jing Tu with all of the elements, earth, air, fire, water, in place within each cauldron, we find a very, very easy layout to then start walking the land in terms of going around zodiac sign by zodiac sign. And in this holographic layering of the zodiac signs with their associated element, we'll be layering up the anatomy and physiology of the human body, how it relates to the imagery of the Ne Jing Tu, and how it relates to the body of Ireland in terms of her megaliths and her natural landscapes, to show that Ireland is the fractal hologram of the human body. And if we work with the land of Ireland during our sacred secretion practice, we're going to be able to amplify the energy within our own bodies in a very coherent way as we connect back to the hologram of the Garden of Eden through Ireland. Pisces, in the element of water: kidneys, lungs, heart, spinal cord, cerebral spinal fluid. Uisneach and Meath provinces, County Drogheda and Meath. Here's the constellation of Pisces. Jesus, fish, seed, Brunaboyne, Newgrange, solstice, sun, moon, Nouth, Douth, lungs, cerebral spinal fluid and heart. The breath and the essence, or the chi and the jing. So this is basically the summarization of what we're going to inspect in the following chapter. The most famous megalithic site on Ireland is a place named Brunaboyne in the county of Meath on the Boyne River, which flows from County Kildare to the Boyne Valley before reaching the Irish Sea on the east coast. There are three main buildings in the area named Newgrange, Nouth and Douth, though many other smaller structures are found in the surrounds. In terms of connecting this site with the human anatomy, physiology, and the inner alchemical processes shown to us in the Ne Jing Tu artwork, these three buildings will be related to the lungs, heart, kidneys, and cerebral spinal fluid. But first, an inner alchemical recap is in order. In the previous books, we have met the concept of the Ne Dan inner alchemical process that has been related to raising Christos, or the sacred secretion. Raising the Christ oil within, when filtered through the Daoist instructions, has three main stages involving the metaphysical coagulation of the three treasures which were introduced in Book 1 Alchemical Laboratory: the Qi, the Jing, and the Shin, the breath, the essence, and the spirit, the lungs, the kidneys, and the heart. And in my other videos, I've shown that this is actually the Irish meaning of Eire: the seed or the chi, the essence, and the spirit. This is your three treasures, are your parts of Eire. Stage 1 of Ne Dan is the merger of breath with essence, chi with jing, or the seed with the jing, the seed with the essence in terms of the Eire. The purpose of this stage is to generate a breath made of the union of essence and breath. This begins in the lower cauldron or womb of the body and generates the Jesus seed that is synonymous with the Daoist character named the immortal embryo or internal elixir. Through the breathing and visualization practice of the microcosmic orbit, the spinal fluid of essence oil is moved from the lower cauldron to the upper cauldron through the gates depicted on the spine of the body in the Ne Jing Tu artwork, which can be also regarded anatomically as nerve plexuses. In biblical terms, we would call the spinal fluids the River Jordan, and in Daoist terms, it is known as the River Chariot, the connected circuit of the Du and Ren meridians. Once the journey of breath and essence has been completed through the River Chariot with enough microcosmic orbit cycles, it finally coagulates into the first seed of the internal elixir. Stage 2 focuses on merging this new alchemized product, the Jesus seed or immortal embryo, with the spirit that resides in the heart. This is recognized as a type of spiritual birth process that occurs in the middle cauldron of the heart or spirit house. At the end of this stage, therefore, essence, breath, and spirit are combined into one entity. Stage 3 speaks of the final merger, the unification of this heart-conceived seed with the Tao or God or creational forces, which can be considered as the biblical ascension, the final return to heaven. In the Daoist view, the cosmos is generated through a gestation process where each stage gives birth to the next. Similarly, internal alchemy often represents its processes as the conception, gestation, and birth of an embryo, just like they did with regard to the inner gods. Here again, practitioners invest themselves with the task of regenerating their own person. When the compounding of the internal elixir is represented in this way, the first stage leads to the conception of the embryo. The second stage consists in its gestation, and the third stage ends with its delivery. Now that we can see the importance of the language of conception, gestation, and birth in the process of raising Christos or the sacred secretion, the monuments of Ireland can be viewed through this lens of perspective. Cauldrons, wombs, tombs. Now, before we move on to the monuments of Ireland, one last slice of raising Christos Daoist cake is tempting me to share here. For the entire purpose of raising the Christ oil within is to generate this new self, a rebirthed self, through the process of Ne Dan and alchemy. But is there anything more to it besides the three mentioned stages? Yes. There is so much to read on the subject, and I am only scratching the surface of it in this series. So I do suggest, dear reader, that you research the Daoist topic more for yourself, as I will continue to do for myself. This book series is designed to be the mere overview of the involved practices and concepts as an encyclopedia of internal alchemy. Many of the details to explore rely simply on personal participation to experience the magic of the practice for the self. For anyone that is still skeptical about the relationship of Ne Dan to the Jesus Christ death, resurrection, and ascension process, this next reference should hope to alleviate that state. Pregadio describes in a work titled "Which is the Daoist Immortal Body?" a process documented in the Dao De Jing text that details the events of creating an immortal body through a simulated death and spiritual rebirth, which to me sounds very similar to the Jesus crucifixion story. In the celestial mastery process, the Adept simulates a death and goes to a place called the Place of Great Darkness in the extreme north of the heavens. In terms of the map of Ireland, this could possibly involve Rathlin Island, which will be discussed in the Sagittarius section. In terms of the human body, this is obviously the top of the head in the upper cauldron, and the acupuncture point there is called Baihui, translated as 100 meetings, or the muddy pill. In the Ne Jing Tu artwork, this is represented by a four-sided temple, or a pyramid with the top cut off. In this place, the Adept's body is refined, and then he obtains a rebirth into a body that preserves itself indefinitely. This practice can only be performed by advanced adepts. When a Daoist practices are complete, the spirits of the Dao call that person to return. Departing the world through a simulated death, the person passes through great darkness to be born again and not perish. That is longevity. So, then we have two slightly different descriptions to achieve this Jesus Christ-like immortality state, through the middle cauldron heart and through the top of the head. But as we will come to see in Book 4, these are two pieces of the very same puzzle. Everything is connected. Now, back to Ireland. The Brú-na-Bóinne complex is technically in the position of Pisces on the astrological wheel, lying between the megalith monuments of Aries and Aquarius on the spine of the body in County Meath. The site sits on a ridge to the northern aspect of the Boyne River. There are three main earth mound buildings on the Brú-na-Bóinne site named Newgrange, Nouth and Douth. The original Irish word for the Newgrange monument is She and Brú. Brú, Brúg, or Brú can be translated as palace or mansion and also womb. Boyne or Boyne translates as white cow. In this way, we arrive to the name womb of the white cow. The term she or she is associated with mounds and fairy mounds. As we have found, she is surely a short form for Gaelic Sior, which means eternal, perpetual in Gaelic. The eternal spiritual fairy mound, cow womb at the level of the heart. Brú means log, beam, so that Newgrange represented the perpetual or eternal post of heaven, which is the immovable north ecliptic pole. Note, this alignment also corresponds with the Lear Fall standing stone at Tara to be discussed in the final chapter. Meath in Gaelic is closer to Mead, meaning balance, i.e. the fulcrum of the balance of heaven. Further interpretation of the function of the site can be found in the above quotes through the etymological name translations. Located in the county of the fulcrum of heaven, the Brú log beam can be also seen as the light that enters the Newgrange inner chamber each year at the winter solstice, which will be discussed below. The location of the Brú-na-Bóinne complex, when overlaid with the Daoist map of the Ne Jing Tu, is in the region of the lungs and the heart. Yet there is no direct imagery on the artwork to show us this is an obvious match, aside from a small gate in the waters of the spine. But curiously, this area contains the cow herd boy nearby the heart. Brú-na-Bóinne, the womb of the white cow, can then be anatomically and etymologically connected to the heart, as the white-coloured cow herd boy represents the heart in the Ne Jing Tu artwork. Lungs, breath, kidneys, essence, heart, spirit. Note, in the above artwork, the base of the 12-storied pagoda, the trachea and larynx, connects to the cowherd character standing on the Milky Way spiral galaxy, holding the Big Dipper constellation. This indicates the region of both the heart and the lungs, and functionally refers to the lungs as air chi or cosmic chi, indeed comes from the cosmos. In traditional Chinese medicine, the process of breathing involves the lungs and also the kidneys. Organs in the Chinese medical viewpoint do not act independently. As the lungs in the upper cauldron pull air or cosmic chi into the body, they expand. This makes the diaphragm move downwards to accommodate the influx of gases. The kidneys, sitting just below the diaphragm between the middle cauldron and the top of the lower cauldron, help to pull in and hold down this chi, this cosmic chi, breath. Both organs are yin organs and therefore associated with water aspects of the upper and lower cauldrons. The kidneys specifically are ruled by the water element, and we cannot get more watery than the zodiac constellation of Pisces, the fish which is the location of the Brú-na-Bóinne complex, the Jesus fish, and the Finn McCool salmon. The three mounds in the complex are all kidney-shaped structures known as tumulus and are situated by the bend in the River Boyne another watery feature of the earth and heavenly code. Yet, as this Brunnerboyne complex is in the anatomical region of the lungs and heart, we have to decode the symbology by knowing a bit of traditional Chinese medicine, anatomy and physiology, which we have done above. Lungs, air or qi, kidneys, water and jing, heart, fire and shin. The three treasures, qi, jing and shin, or the seed, the essence and the spirit of ether, come together as a three-organ interwoven system at Brunnerboyne, the earth element. All three passage tombs have a similar structural theme, being circular in shape with internal passages that divide the midline and open to the exterior, aligning with different phases of the agricultural cycle. The passages are aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and constellations, and are adorned with mysterious internal and external markings that have been decoded as referring to cosmology. In terms of viewing Nauth and Dowth as anatomy, we can interpret the two mounds as the lungs of the body. Nauth, Newgrange, and Dowth, lung, heart, lung. The right lung has 3 lobes or divisions and the left lung has 2. Nauth and Dowth share external structural similarities, though their interior passageways have different layouts. Depending on how we view the anatomy of the body, left and right can change positions, so I find it difficult to ascribe the megalith specifically at this point. Dowth has 2 original passages or chambers located on the western side of the mound. One is called North Dowth and the other is named South Dowth, and they have an arrangement of extension chambers within. One is oriented to the cross-quarter day sunset of Samhain, and the other aligns with the winter solstice. One passage is aligned such that the sun can enter into its chamber in winter, and on the winter solstice at sunset, the sunbeam strikes an orthostat at the rear of its circular chamber. The other passage, which is cruciform in shape, is blocked by a concrete entrance shaft, but may have been aligned towards Samhain, Imbolc, November and February cross-quarter sunsets. The Irish name for Dowth is Dubad, which means darkness, for the reason of the site being associated more with the movement of the sun, and in particular the sun set on the winter solstice and Samhain. We could then name Dowth as the left lobe of the lung, as the mound closest to the east coast of Ireland, and the rising sun on the Dhu before the seed oil energy enters the caves or darkness of the brain at the brainstem. Or will make sense in context. Dowth, sunset, yang aspect, and the east. As the cruciform chamber has been blocked up, this would suggest that the earth has some breathing problems. Nauth. We see the stars of Draco at the famous site of Nauth, where the stars of Draco are marked around the main mound, i.e. the centre of heaven, as the surrounding smaller mounds. A plan of Nauth showing the 2 passages and 16 of the satellite mounds. Circles show approximate size and locations. Plan adapted from George Egan's book, Nauth. The surrounding smaller mounds of Nauth are aligned with cosmological phenomenon which matches the positions in the sky overhead. Many have surmised that due to its east-west passage arrangement, it must be aligned with the equinoxes, yet no one has truly proven this to be accurate. When inspecting the internal passage artwork, ancient inscriptions found have been identified as the cycles of the moon, which display a leaning towards the theory that Nauth is more to do with the moon. Dr. Philip Stuck shows in the drawings below that the lunar maria of the moon has been precisely drawn. A naked eye map of the moon left, a carving from Nauth, orthostat 47 right, and the 2 superimposed in the centre to illustrate their similarity. When viewed for one entire cycle, 3 of the moon's rotating positions are shown on orthostat 47, and the complete cycle would look something like this. North, moon, yin aspect, and the west. Now we have established a sun-moon yin-yang theme between the two mounds of Daoist and North. What of the smaller surrounding structures found at North? Coming back to the lung theory, in terms of the anatomy of smaller structures within the lung, these small mounds could be compared with alveoli, the projections that form from the bronchioles or the branches of the lung. Continuing this theory further, but taking one step back from the alveoli to bronchioles, we could view the internal branching passages of the megalithic structures to have structural similarities as the passages split off into multiple directions. This can be especially witnessed in the Daoist Mound as an amazing virtual tour, which can be found on the website of carokeel.com. To quote from the Ne Jing Tu, the spirit of the lungs is called brilliant splendor, hua hao, given name emptiness complete, su cheng. Sun moon, du ren, expansion, contraction, electricity, and magnetism. Newgrange. Of the three Brunner-Boyne monuments, Newgrange is the most well known, and in terms of the human anatomy, I will be comparing its form and function with the heart and kidneys. In traditional Chinese medical theory, the heart governs the blood of the body and the kidneys store the essence or the jing. Along with the breath or qi provided by the lungs, we can see the three treasures needed to create the Jesus seed immortal child represented with these organ relationships, as the blood and the heart is where the spirit lives. The kidney essence can transform into blood, and the blood can transform into essence. The two organs also display elemental crossovers due to their positions in the body and substances they are in charge of. The heart is located in the upper portion of the middle cauldron, and it is in the element of fire, but the substance of the heart is blood, which is technically water. The kidneys are located in the lower part of the middle cauldron and are elementally classified as water due to their functions involving blood and urine balancing. Yet, the yang or fire aspect of the kidneys as the powerhouse of the entire body is involved with providing yang or warming fire energy to the heart to sustain life, and to all the other organs as well. As we all know, if the heart stops beating, the end has arrived. Yang energy is not only about fire. As we have learned in Book 1, Alchemical Laboratory, yang energy is responsible for motion, contractions, holding organs and tissues in place and upright with its ascending energy helps inner structures avoid prolapse. Yang is about activity in the body, and what could be more active than the heart? The heart is run on electrical energy. The SA node of the heart electrically stimulates the nearby nerves 60 to 90 times per minute on average, and this is called the heartbeat. The SA, sinoatrial node, generates an electrical signal that causes the upper heart chambers or atria to contract. The signal then passes through the AV, atrioventricular node, to the lower heart chambers, ventricles, causing them to contract, or pump, or vortex. The SA node is considered as the pacemaker of the heart. As we can see in the anteriorly facing diagram of the heart, the left, moon, west, north, and right, sun, east, Daoist sides are divided down the midline by the right and left branches of the AV nerve bundles. Noticing this division is on a northwest, southeast axis, we may then draw comparison with the structure and alignment of Newgrange. Newgrange. How does it work? From the southeasterly direction, the winter solstice sunrise moves into the inner cross of the Newgrange megalith site every year on the December winter solstice, generally occurring inside the period between December 18th to the 23rd, with the official solstice peaking around the 21st of the month. In the above diagram, we can observe the beam of light entering the chamber as it peaks over the top of a nearby hill called the Red Mountain. For 17 minutes on the morning of the solstice, the sun alights the inner cross chamber through a tiny gap above the stone door known as a roof box. The sun, who dies on the cross each year of the winter's agricultural death, is commemorated here as an astronomical alignment that has not changed for more than 5,000 years. This is external fire entering Earth internally. Around the perimeter of the Newgrange tumulus, there are 97 stones named curbstones, each inscribed with spirals and diamonds, cup hole marks, and various other glyphic depictions. Many people have observed these symbols to be of the celestial body cosmology, and while there are conflicting interpretations as to what these ancient symbols truly mean, the basic consensus is that the markings are showing the movements of the heavenly bodies. Newgrange curbstone number 2 shows the line from the north ecliptic pole to the north celestial pole, circa 1 BC. It also shows the constellations Ursa Minor and Draco, since that line passes between the head and handle of Ursa Minor and runs along a row of 3 or 4 stars in Draco. An Earth calendar, the Earth Mountain, Ken Mountain Earth, as written on the Ne Jing Tu. The crossing point from winter to summer, from death to rebirth, a marker between the light half and the dark half of the year. The Father Sun enters the Mother Earth to begin a new lunisolar year. In the symbolic comparison of the solar Christian cross with the Egyptian Ankh, we can see the similarity of the reproductive anatomy in the cruciform chambers within the Brunner-Boyne complexes. Both symbols represent heavenly light and life, the sun moving around the earth in cycles. The inner chamber shape cross can be compared to a womb with ovaries, along with the supporting Nowth and Dowth accessory structures, is a sun, moon, womb, tomb arrangement. In the above symbol, we can observe the fractal nature of the kidneys that look like lungs, which are situated either side of the heart. How does this relate to the raising Christos process of inner alchemy? As we have already seen, the winter solstice, or time when the sun stands still, is associated with the story of Jesus, the Son who died on the cross and was entombed for 2.1 to 3 days. A time when the sun enters the inner cross-shaped chamber of Newgrange and is reborn into the womb of the Mother Earth each yearly cycle. Curbstone 1 is one of the 97 perimeter stones of Newgrange, and it is unique as it lies directly outside the door of the tomb's entrance where the winter solstice sunrise enters the roof box, a small opening that lets the light into the tomb and inner cross chamber. Is this triskelion engraved stone synonymous with the stone rolled across the door of Jesus' tomb? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Qi, Jing, Shin, breath, essence, spirit, birth, death, rebirth. Is Newgrange the place where Jesus simulated death before being resurrected into an immortal body, described by Pregradio's findings inside the Daoist teachings, or is it symbolic as an Earth-Sun cosmological archetypal pattern? The geographical position of the Brunner-Boyne complex, when compared with the Ne Jing Tu map of the human body, is at the level of the heart. Shin Dao, spirit pathway, is the acupuncture point on the Du Meridian. This point is the gate between the kidneys at Aries and the brainstem at Aquarius, while medially connecting to the heart and also the lungs. In this diagram, I have drawn attention to the acupuncture meridians of the back of the body and overlaid the Irish megalithic site or townland correlations. The lung dominates qi and the heart stores the spirit, and together they are activated by the gathering qi. In terms of raising Christos, This statement links the function of the heart and lungs with regards to the process of Ne Dan stage 2 that requires the practitioner to unite the breath, essence, immortal child seed born in the lower cauldron with the spirit that resides in the heart before accomplishing the third stage and returning back to Tao or creation or God via this inner ascension. 3 kidney-shaped tumulus, water and fire receptacles as the lungs and heart of the earth. The movement from Pisces to Aquarius, water, fire, and air elemental phase changes. The lungs and the kidneys breathing in airy gases and vaporizing them. Baptism and crucifixion places. External heaven energies of the sun enter the inner earth through the heart gate of Newgrange at Shin Dao, breathing in air, chi breath in combination with fire from the sun and the lower cauldron fire as Ming Men, Aries fire at the kidneys, this energy who enters the tomb from the southeast in the direction of the solstice sunrise. Observing the direction of the sun's entry from the southeast compared with the ascent of the seed fish up the spine in the cerebral spinal fluids, the oil merging as the solstice sunrise at Newgrange, the trajectory flows upwardly and inwardly towards the brain to the megalithic stone constellation of Aquarius in the place of the baptism. As Aquarius is the great water bearer. A death of the sun on the cross solstice crucifixion occurs at Newgrange below Golgotha the skull, preceding the entrance to the upper tomb womb, the brain, awaiting resurrection in the northern underground caves of Ireland's landscape. As described earlier, Meath means middle, post, and fulcrum as the central heavenly balance point, while Brew has multiple interpretations meaning the log, beam, palace, mansion, and womb. The central heart forms the signpost to heaven. Note, in one part, the heart house of the spirit is found at Brunaboyne, and in another, it links to the Hill of Tara as the North Pole alignment, which will be shown in the final chapters of this book. To quote the Ne Jing Tu, the spirit of the heart is called Elixir Origin, Tan Yuan, and given name guarding the Numen. Numen, an indwelling, guiding force or spirit. Heart, lungs and kidneys, spinal fluids, and brain. The Newgrange solstice is the sword in the stone. The sword of heavenly sky father light of the sun enters the Shi and Brew womb of the white cow on the winter solstice, the day when the sun stands still on the horizon for 3 days following, the Jesus Christ Easter Christ crucifixion and the resurrection. The stone is the earth and the sword is the sun. People jam into the passage every winter solstice, and I do wonder what would happen to the earth consciousness if we took the people out of here at this important time and let nature just get on with it. The key in the lock starts the clock. The sword of light, sun, fire enters the stone earth through air at Eire. Received into the watery tomb of the earth mother as the Ankh of life, the path of the sun resurrection process has begun. So you might find yourself thinking, well, interesting information, but how does that relate to my life? Why would I bother to learn this information? Well, it's all about inner alchemy and I guess optimizing how we can do the sacred secretion in a very mysterious and ancient way that relates back to all of this hidden history to do with Eire and what has happened to the lost knowledge of the Magian priests of the megalithic age. And when I layered up my body internally with the map of the Ne Jing Tu, the alchemists in a metaphysical body of the Daoists, when I layered that into my body, and then I layered Ireland into my body, and then I did the microcosmic orbit as if I was doing my drive around Ireland, which I did in 2016. I did a loop orbit of the island of Ireland. And when I did this in January 2022 in my garden, within 3 circulations of the microcosmic orbit, I went into a state of what I can call bliss, where I was experiencing my body in an entirely new way, where I could feel what my body felt like as I was moving around in my environment, and every movement felt like the most amazing feeling I've ever felt, that I'd never felt in my lifetime before. And I've only ever felt this bliss energy once before, when I was in Vipassana in 2013, and I got the same feeling, except it took me 5 days of hardcore meditating from 4:30 in the morning till 7 at night to achieve the same state, right? And in this instance, that state was achieved within maybe 10 to 20 minutes. I can't really remember. And since then, as I've practiced this layering of the hologram of the Garden of Eden, it's gotten stronger and it's spread to more cells of my body. So I consider it to be a very repeatable experiment that now I want to teach to other people to really optimize their sacred secretion practice. And in this way, it's led me, through doing this practice, it's led me to uncovering all of this information at the same time. So I know there's something very deep to this, and it's really all to do with lost history as well. This is the true high magic of the old ways, and this is what I want to share with people. And the sharing of it, as you can see, it's not complex information. It's just very detailed and it's very layered. And when I open up my online school of mysticism, which will be very soon, that's the place where I'm going to bring all these layers together. The layers that are written in the books, the layers that are on the free YouTube videos, the layers that are in the online course. And in these once a week classroom setting teachings, I want to really start pulling it all apart and merging all of these different facets of information spread over these different platforms. I want to merge it all into one as a streamlined teaching. But because it is such a deeply detailed teaching, all of the knowledge is spread over these different mediums like books and videos. So I don't have the same information in the books as I do in a video, as I do in an online course, because the information is so vast and so wide. It's actually spread itself into all of these different parts. In the online school will be the kind of glue that starts gluing all the parts together. So I hope that makes sense. And if you want to get hold of these books, they're on my website, Anaya Science Witch, as PDFs in the current state. And that really is the best place to get my books, almost the only place, because I do have book number 1, Alchemical Laboratory, loaded up onto Amazon Print on Demand. The other 2 have been a work in progress because of formatting issues. But Amazon Print on Demand, the one that I've loaded it into, I think it services America. And then this has meant that any UK people and Australian people have found it does not serve their area. And this is where the catch is, which I haven't been able to progress with, is that if I want that book to be in, Europe areas, Australian areas, I have to tick a box in the submission thing on Amazon saying that they can use my book to sell it to other publishing websites. And when you look at that process, you realize that those publishing websites undercut the Amazon sale value, which is associated with your bank account. And then the ones that they undercut you with, you don't get any of that profit as the author, as the creator. And those other websites are owned by Amazon. So they're literally stealing from artists, is what I've discovered. So that's why I've hit the wall with that procedure at the moment, and a big delay in the process with my own personal life as well. And then, there was another book site recommended for a publishing service, and that has turned out to be pretty much a scam. So frustratingly, I keep coming back to square one, which is no print books. So until that is sorted, really, I'm sorry, but it's just going to have to be the PDF book through my website. Because what is the most important for me really in this process is getting the information to you, and if that is only coming across through the digital book medium at this point, then that's what we have to deal with. So I just wanted to explain that so people understand that, to do this self-publishing work, it's like you have to learn a lot every time you go onto any of these websites, because they're super complicated and all of that. So that's the story with the books, and I hope you enjoyed this chapter called Pisces from Irish Elixir, the third book in the series. And just to make a quick note, it is a series, which means that the three books that I've got so far, they all work together. What's mentioned in book 3 was described in book 1 and 2, that kind of thing. So for it to completely make sense, it is pretty much one big giant book split into 4 books, because that's how much information presented itself. And so, hit subscribe, and I'll keep you updated with when the school's going to be up online. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.